Hey, everybody, what is up? Welcome to another Drum Talk TV interview. And for those of you who may be new to what we do and not sure what we do, same here. Like, I don't know what the heck. No, just kidding. For those of you who do follow us and know what we do, you probably know that we interview a lot of gold and platinum artists, a lot of upcoming artists. We do documentaries. We curate content from our fans. We have 4 original series. We're bringing a 5th one back pretty soon and do all kinds of fun stuff. And once in a while, we find someone who's just a real gem that has great music, great conversation. And today you're meeting Sam Stokes, who actually lives right near where I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, part of Los Angeles. Welcome, Sam. How are you?
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And I also want to point out, because a lot of people don't know that this could be on their radar, that part of how we found Sam was she was gifted an interview spot that someone won in a raffle that they were able to gift to somebody. So they said, hey, what about this young lady? And I said, let's check her out. So Sam and I met. We talked about music. I looked at what she was doing and I said, I'd love to have you on. So here we go. And as it says in the description there, that Sam is a singer, songwriter, musician, also expanding her horizons on learning drums. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But she has a really cool piece of work called Common Ground. And I want to show everybody something real quick here. Let's go to this, which is some of her artwork that obviously you did a lot of this artwork or all of this artwork yourself.
Actually, I feel very gifted that I have the talent of hearing music, but I'm very much a stick figure sort of artist. So
perfect.
The main artwork was for the album cover. So these 3 faces there together.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine in Germany actually drew that. She just heard the song and it was just going to be a single. And she sent that back to me just for fun. And I was like, oh, this is way too beautiful. Like, we have to make the whole album around this.
So she did all this other artwork?
And then a different artist did all of the other individual things because I released a book of poetry and lyrics.
Right, a companion item to the piece of work. Yeah.
Yeah. So, incredible. And that's my favorite is collaborations and allowing other artists to really just shine in their gifts. So,
yeah, absolutely. No, it's beautiful. Great job with that. So how would you describe your work to everybody? We have a couple clips that we'll play also, but if someone just landed here from Mars or Wyoming, same thing, how would you describe your music and what you do?
Yeah, I guess the Mars in Wyoming is a very good way to describe it. I try to, people always say that I'm kind of like a very grounded alien, or I sometimes feel like an alien anthropologist that was like born on Earth and is like just in love with humanity, in love with the planet. But sometimes I feel like this outsider perspective. And so I try to kind of, explore, the way that like when you travel to a new country and you see everything for the first time with new eyes, I try to do that within the context of even my day-to-day life of just how do you appreciate things as if you're seeing it all from the first time. And so it's a lot of natural elements. I always try to incorporate, but similarly, it's a lot of, I guess, music that is soulful, things that really connect to that part of you that is just tender and sweet and soft.
That's great. Let's take a look at something. This is actually Sam Stokes, a Common Ground excerpt. Check this out. That's great. Where was that, Sam?
Kulak's Woodshed. That's one of my favorite spots in LA. They're the absolute best, really.
Where is it?
It's off of Laurel Canyon, but not in the canyon. It's in Valley Village.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great spot.
How long's it been there? It must have popped up long after I was out of the area.
Well, it's been there officially 26 years.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I left with the Northridge earthquake, which was 95. So yeah, it's been a while. I go, as we talked about, I go back and visit a couple times a year and whatnot. Still friends with my 6th grade teacher. Hi, Mickey. If you're watching, he's 94, going on 54. And so I love going back to the area. But yeah, that's neat. It has very much a baked potato / tiny desk kind of feel to it.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And
it's very much like labor of love, like artist run space. So they really try to, help artists. And it's every Monday night they do like an open mic night. So artists can come and pay $20 and they get a full video recording of a song.
Oh, wow.
So it's so generous, and it's all run by volunteers. Like it's a rare gem in LA. So yeah, it's a great spot.
That's great. Tell everybody the name again, please.
Kulak's Woodshed. So Kulak Woodshed. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Check that out, everybody. If you go through the area, or for my old Valley peeps that still live there, and there are some, and they are old. I went to school with them, so I know how old you are. Check it out. I've never heard of it. That's awesome. Now I've got like a list of 12 people off the top of my head. I got to ask if they've been there.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's great. We have another excerpt that we're going to show. A couple, actually. I'm going to show a couple more. We'll talk about each one right after. And then we'll talk about your influences. Then we'll talk about this new horizon of drumming and percussion that you're getting into. Okay.
Let's do it.
Check this one out, folks.
Like a summer day that never ends till unexpected it rains again and 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 again to break the heat, just as you saw it on repeat. Like singing a song your friend only thought connected to the music inside him. Create a melody outside for humanity. It's love united. It's love enlightened. It's love alright. It's love alright. It's love alright. It's love alright. It's love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love
Very cool. Who are some of your influences relative to that particular piece? Then we'll show one more.
Yeah. Well, I can't go any further without mentioning the love of MB Gordy on the drums there. And,
I was going to ask about the guys there for sure.
And Karl Vincent on bass. They are the absolute best. And they, it's just such an inspiration to play with them because our kind of process of how, I'll have songs that I've been working on solo, and then we'll just come in and do basically one rehearsal, and everything is very much open, and it's kind of my inspiration to go to the question about that song, Like a Feather. It's very much this allowing people and music to be itself within the music. It's allowing musicians to find themselves in the song. It's allowing the expression to find. So sometimes I feel even like as a performer, it's finding myself in the song that you just heard, right? So you're like, oh, okay, here's what's kind of coming through, here's what we're putting together, and then okay, how do I fit into this song? And yeah, so I'm hugely, I see we have the same Beatles poster. We recognized that last time.
Oh, funny, that's right. I've got the actual album there
Yes.
with the
Yep.
gatefold cover. I don't know.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So hugely inspired by the Beatles, but man, Jimi Hendrix, Joni Mitchell, Stevie Wonder, and then you got Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra. Like, to
Wow,
me,
nice.
it's a very wide spectrum of just people who are great within whatever genre. Like, it's just so like Miles Davis, where you just hear the expressiveness of like, wow, he's just like talking to you, you know?
Yeah.
And that to me is like, it's the stuff that's just like magic. It's just truly magic.
That's cool. So when you play with the guys, it sounds like, do you sometimes find yourself and the three of you, maybe it's not played and performed the same way every time? You find your place a little differently in those compositions? Yeah.
Like
Cool.
every time, almost every time, it's a little bit different.
That's great.
And which is my favorite thing because it allows it to breathe. And there was one show we did last year where I remember we went on stage. It was like a whole hour set, and we were all so in the zone. We just all like tapped out, and we were in the zone. And we finished playing a song, and I checked down to see where we were in the set list. And I looked at Karl on bass, and I was like, did we just play that song, or are we playing that one next? And he was like, I literally don't know. And I was like, I don't know either. I don't know what song we just finished playing. Like, we were and we were like, should we just play it again? No, I think we played that, you know. It's just totally kind of like zonked out in that space. And
yeah, it can be euphoric when things lock in, you know.
Totally.
Yeah, that's neat. Let's see another excerpt. Let's go with, let me make sure I click on the right button. Here we go, folks. Check this one out.
For the breeze, for the air, for the sun, for the east, for the breeze, for the air, for the sun, for the east, for the breeze, for the air, for the sun, for the air. For the breeze, for the air, for the sun, for the east, for the breeze, for the air, for the sun, for the east, for the breeze, for the air, for the sun. Come and grow, the ocean down. Come and grow, hearts grow deeper.
Awesome. Great stuff. So before we talk about the EP you're working on, let's talk drums and percussion. What interested you to start to gravitate toward learning percussion? And eventually you mentioned you're going to get a drum kit and go down that path, that crazy road.
Yes. You know, so I originally started off years ago, really from the world of singing, and specifically just that world. And then I started learning guitar probably in like 2019, really just like learning guitar. So big pandemic project. And I remember I had a friend at the time who said, he said when he learned how to play an instrument, it helped his timing for singing. But then he said in the pandemic, he learned to play the drums. And he said when he learned to play the drums, it improved his pitch for singing. Because he was talking about how with drumming, because correct me if I get this wrong, but because it's like certain beats, they have to be the perfect pitch basically within those beats. And so the frequencies of those beats actually improve the pitch of the singing. So anyway, I thought that was the most fascinating thing because I felt for myself how learning an instrument was improving the vocals. And he was like, yeah, when you add in then drumming, that's going to take it even further. And I thought, wow, that's so cool. And I think you'll hear a lot too through the music. You know, I play guitar from a very like rhythmic perspective. It's very,
Yeah, I noticed that.
yeah, it's very much rhythmic guitar. It's very much focused on the beats. It's focused on the syncopations. It's focused on, and so to me, it was like, oh, like digging into then just drums for itself is like, it feels like the next frontier, you know, just exploration and expansion.
Well, I believe it also does. And folks, feel free to chime in and, you know, tell me what you think if you play more than just drums, but also drums. You know, drums is my primary instrument. And I've been playing drums 55 years. I should be a lot better, but I did learn some other instruments. And being a drummer really helped me having that perspective and context with music. And I produced for a while and I wrote music for a while and I wrote music for commercials and I produced other artists. And being a drummer just seemed to really elevate the contextual perspective of the music, really understanding the nuances of the rhythms and the beat placement. And also back in the day before digital recording, when we had to get out a razor blade and cut out like an eighth note or a dotted 16th note worth of tape, you know, it's like punch in right there. I was like a punch master. And you know, just it really does improve your timing and gives you another lens, if you will, to look at the music through, I think. And also I believe it has assisted with the phrasing of not just music, but phrasing of lyrics and different things like that. So I think it's really neat that you're going about it from the singer-songwriter and guitar player, rhythmic guitar player point of view, moving into percussion. And you mentioned that you've ventured into some hand percussion experiences and things, of cajon and whatnot. Let's talk about that. What are those experiences been like?
Yeah. So I've been, I have like a whole, I did a whole record with a friend of mine named Casey called, the record was called Conscious Stars. And it was this whole project we did middle of the pandemic. And we didn't really have any other opportunities because it was very much like an at-home sort of thing. So all the instruments that we used were all these different hand percussive things. Like we used like 2 sticks that we found on a hike once, you know, and we used like the side of an air conditioning with some brushes because it had this cool kind of, and we used all these different things. And it was very exciting, this kind of like being able to create that, even just that steady little rhythm, that just little bit of that heartbeat. Something that was so simple. And so, yeah, it's been something that I've been definitely doing for a few years now. And very much, as I was saying a little bit privately earlier, I very much look forward to stepping into like an actual drum kit. Because to me, the idea of like now using all 4, wow, that intimidates me and excites me at the same time.
That's neat. I think one of the biggest things that's different about the drum set from pretty much any other instrument is that, well, there's a few things, but let's start with this. A violin is a violin. You put the bow to the strings or you pluck it and it makes a violin sound. Guitars, same thing. You finger pick, use a pick, you strum, you pick, your arpeggio, and it sounds like a guitar. Saxophone, the valves on any type of similar saxophone, alto, tenor, baritone, whatever, the valves are all in the same place. You blow in it, you get your reed action down your armature, and it sounds like a saxophone. The drum set is literally a collection of instruments that are ensembled together, and it works like a miniature orchestra. And as a drum set player, the more you get to know each aspect of each individual piece of your drum set and the many different sounds you can get out of it, let alone, like you were saying, using all 4 limbs, limb independence, the coordination and all that, it really becomes quite interesting on what a drum set really is, as opposed to a drum set is not just one instrument. It's an ensemble, really. So it kind of, it makes you think differently, but it only makes you think differently if you come from another instrument. If you come straight to the drum set, you think that way.
Right.
But if you come from guitar, saxophone, flute, piano, whatever, it does make you think differently because now you're playing a few different instruments technically at the same time. And to me, that's a lot of fun. I love it.
I'd be curious if you know the history of it, because I was just thinking, sometimes there's certain things that we just take for granted as like, cars always existed, right? But it's like, well, cars were invented. There was like pre-cars, post-cars.
No. Dinosaurs and cavemen had cars.
Oh, okay.
They've always been around. They ran on fossil fuel before there was. Just kidding.
See, okay, now the more you know. But so like drum kits, like as this constellation of your kick and your bass and your snare and your, like I was thinking of like potentially pre-kit. There was probably an orchestra that was having those as one player just doing the bass drum, one player just doing the snare drum, one player just doing the toms, right?
Yeah.
And so when was like the actual drum kit itself? Because I imagine like when you first put all of those things together, you're saying, oh, instead of those 10 players, we could just have one person do it. And trying to manage those different rhythms at the same time. Like
it came partly with the birth of different music. So what you first described was basically how the percussion section worked within the context of a concert band, a symphony band, or an orchestra. And when I was a kid, when I was 12, 13, 14, maybe 15, I played in the school concert band and orchestra. And I was first chair drummer, which is supposed to play the snare drum, but I always preferred to play the timpani drums. It's my favorite percussion instrument. I have timpani drums. The director would get mad at me because I'm supposed to be on snare drum, but I love the timpani drums. But we had those individual players. We had the 2 snare drums. We had the timpani drum, someone that played cymbal. Maybe they also played triangle, someone that played the bass drum, etc. But what happened, and I have a resource back here on my shelf, I'll grab in a moment, is there was what became the trap kit. And the trap kit is when they started to combine those things. There was a bass drum and it had wood blocks on it, maybe a cymbal and a snare drum. They invented a pedal for the bass drum. And then there was something called a low boy. And the low boy was about that high off the ground and it had a pedal and it would snap 2 cymbals together. That eventually became a hi-hat.
Whoa.
Let me show you something.
Please.
Now that I open my big mouth, I got to find it real quick. Hold on.
Yeah. Please.
You know what? For those who missed it, while I'm looking, let's show another clip again. Check this out, folks. All right, nice. So I have the answer.
You found it. Okay.
I have 2 very good friends, Kelly Ray Tubbs, that's Kelly with an I, Kelly Ray Tubbs and Daniel Glass. And together and separately, they're historians of the drum set and drumming and percussion. And this is a poster put out by Vic Firth that Daniel came up with. I'm going to unfold it, show it off. It's pretty big. And
wow,
century of drumming evolution, starting all the way from 1895, when the first trap kit was invented, through the 1890s, the 1900s, all the way through modern times.
Wow.
And he has a DVD. Here, let me fold this up so I don't ruin it. I'll send you this. He has a DVD called The Century Project, and he basically walks you through the history and the evolution of drums. And Daniel was in, this is also put out by our friends at Drum Channel, the DVD is.
Yeah.
And this has been out for quite a while. 2014. I remember we didn't live in Arizona yet. We were still had our place operating out of Las Vegas. But it's really, really a cool thing. And anyhow, before I met Daniel, I discovered a band called Royal Crown Review. And Royal Crown Review is one of the few very authentic modern day swing bands.
Ooh.
And Royal Crown Review, Brian Setzer's orchestra, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, and my other favorite was Cherry Poppin' Daddies, who had a song that I used as a soundtrack when I had a cooking show on TV. A whole other story. But Daniel, my favorite album of theirs is their live album, which is Live at the Mint, The Stint at the Mint. And my favorite studio album is called The Contender. And it takes you back to the 40s.
Whoa.
Big band and swing. And Daniel, to compound things, he's a left-handed drummer. Most left-handed drummers set their drum sets up backwards from how right-handed drummers set up. So sometimes to watch him do a clinic or teach something as a right-handed drummer, you got to reverse it in your brain. It's really interesting, but he's a wonderful guy. I'll send you this poster. It's a really, really neat chart of exactly what you asked. Where did this come from? Like they started with all separate players and then became the drum set and had an enormous effect on not just modern day music, but music of the teens and 20s when we had before bebop and we had Dixieland and different things like that. So it's glad you brought that up because I've not pulled this out in a little while.
I can't wait to look at that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really neat. If I have one, let me see something real quick. Hold on. Now that I know where they are.
Nice.
Let me just see something. I'll send you this one. It's signed by Daniel.
Oh, stop it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll set it right here.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. And look for the DVD. It's online. It's probably still on sale at drumchannel.com. And it's really interesting. It really, really, will show you a lot.
I feel like too, sometimes like I was saying, there's certain things that we just accept as like existing or having existed. And it's so interesting for me, at least, like when I was understanding producing, it was like, oh, there's this tool in this digital thing, but what was it actually replicating from an analog perspective, which I didn't get hardly any experience with that. So it's like, oh, what was like a reverb chamber at the bottom basement of Capitol Records, and why is this digital tool trying to replicate that, right? And so it's like when you understand the purpose of something originally and then how we modify it or embrace it, it's
evolve through technology.
Yeah, it's cool.
We had tape machines that were the size of your washing machine for your laundry.
Yes.
And I still have a reel. The silver one is a 2-inch tape reel that I kept from a project I did at NFL Films in 87, 88.
Yeah.
Something like that. And when we used tape this thick, how did you edit? You literally got out a razor blade or you re-recorded stuff and you punched in, you'd put the playback, lead guitarists would sit, wait for their part, you'd punch in record right at the right spot and they'd do their thing. Punch out. Oh man, that one note. I kind of want to, that's okay. Let's just punch in for that measure. And you had to be really good to punch in right on time so that they'd be able to. And drummers innately, we all innately have rhythm. But I always found that drummers made such great producers because the sense of timing and also what I mentioned earlier, just having that foundational perspective of music and phrasing and everything from a rhythmic point of view first. Not that other people aren't great producers. I'm not an idiot. Well,
Sure.
maybe, but not in that area. Like I recognize that, you know. But there's so many great musicians that played drums first. Billy Sherwood, who plays bass for Yes now. Trevor Rabin, who was in Yes 90125 years, owner of A Lonely Heart. He played drums first. There's so many. Frank Zappa, for goodness sakes, was a drummer first.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
something about embracing the drums that I believe will change how you look at your music in the future and maybe how you work with the guys in the band. It's just there's something different about it. It's and I'm glad that drums are my first primary and only my almost my only instrument, because I haven't played my stringed instruments in way too long. I just keep getting more percussion instruments like that. Djembes and the North African darbukas there, and I've got up here I've got a 1977 mandolin in the middle that I bought brand new in 77. 10-string quattro guitar on the right. And the one on the left was my father's first guitar from 1957 when he was a 17-year-old and wanted to play guitar. And that's his original guitar. So I can play a little bit. I used to have a bass. It got stolen. Love bass, but drums are really my instrument. Oh, I have a piano now too. I fool around on that stuff. It's like, it's therapy. I don't write music anymore. I've done recordings where I played all the instruments. It's been years and years and years and years, but drums are my wheelhouse. They are my brush, paint, and palette, if you will, musically. But I'd really be interested to follow along and see how playing and learning a drum set affects how you compose or how you do produce your own music and even phrase lyrics, because I think it'll have an effect on it.
Oh yeah, I mean, everything that we do has an effect in some way. You know, learning new languages has an effect on your lyrics and your ideas of how you do things, right?
Do you speak different languages?
Yeah, I speak Spanish and German fluently.
Oh wow, most people don't know that English is not my primary language.
Really? What is it?
It's sarcasm.
Ah.
I used to be not fluent in Spanish, but very conversational, but I haven't used it regularly in so long that I have to like tune into the frequency like an old radio dial.
Yes.
You know?
Give it like 2-3 days, like where you only speak that, and then you're like, okay, got it.
Right. But you're right. You know, learning things like that, even playing a different guitar, even playing a different acoustic guitar that has a different feel, or the body isn't as deep, or it's deeper, or it's got a cutaway at the bottom. I'm sure if you've, you know, experimented with different instruments on the same songs, there's something about it that will make you play, or your approach is slightly different. I know if I sit down at someone else's drum set, that's, you know, no drum sets are set up the exact same way or have the exact same gear. So if I sit down at a different drum set, my brain sort of automatically goes into creative mode, and the approach is just a little different. It's almost like wearing someone else's underwear, I guess. Because when I play, not that I've done that, but when I play my own drum sets, it's like, this is my musical home. I can close my eyes and my body will take care of everything. But sitting down a different set with a different setup and different gear and it's tuned differently, you got to pay attention now. And it changes your approach. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Have you experienced that with a different guitar that might have even different strings, or the action is different, or, you know, the weight is different?
Yeah, definitely. Like when I play electric, or when I play like different, you know, different acoustic guitars, it does have an impact. I do, however, try to challenge myself to also be as fluid and open to that. You know, I've had shows where you get there and it's like all of a sudden your guitar just doesn't want to work, right? It just, you can't plug it in, you can't make it work. And there was one show that we did as a full band, and there's nothing I could do to get my guitar to work. And so I was like, oh shoot. And there was a really old strings. The guitar was dusty. It was a semi hollow body, like semi-electric guitar sitting on the back of the stage. And I was like, okay, we're going to make this work. And just being able to also kind of stay, because I've also seen musicians sometimes that can be inflexible to just you know, the nature of live music. And then you're like, and so for me, it's always like, okay, show must go on. Okay, this is going to sound
Yeah,
different.
you've
This
got
is
to
gonna
be
be
able to
different. And then,
adapt.
okay, let's just adapt and let's see what happens. And but it is, you know, all of a sudden like 50% more brain power going in, because you're like,
Yeah,
okay, this is a little bit different. I have
you got to
other
pay
things
attention
to account
more,
for.
right?
Yeah, you're like,
Because
okay,
you're
this is
learning the
different.
instrument as you're playing, because you're not
Yes.
used to that dusty, probably out of tune guitar with different type of strings, and the actions
Yeah,
probably messed
yeah,
up, all of that. But this
yeah.
is also a lesson why every gigging musician should carry either a kazoo and or a paper and comb handy, so that if worse comes to worse, you just
Yeah,
there you go.
totally,
So
absolutely.
let's talk about your EP. You're working on an EP. You've got Common Ground out there. Now you're working on an EP. What is there a difference? Is it an expansion of what you've been doing? What's and are the guys on that as well?
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely different. So Common Ground was for me, it was deeply, deeply personal, and it was really important. I produced the whole thing. I played all the instruments on it except for one song I wrote with a friend of mine in Germany. So he played guitar on that, but everything else, I did everything. And it was important to me for that project to, you know, get into the producing, get into the instrumentations, get into all of it, and create something to me that sounded the way that I wanted it to sound. And so that was a lot of what that album was. And now I just completed a crowdfunding campaign with the studio in Boston. They're called Plaid Dog Recording. And that was just an incredible experience. I'd never done a crowdfunding thing before. And what's amazing about the studio, it's not a record label. So they actually, all the artists keep 100% of all of their rights,
Oh,
everything.
nice.
So it's not a record label. It's just a recording studio, but they are specialized in helping artists basically do these crowdfunding campaigns to pay for the studio time.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so we recorded The Tale of Gaia in January as part of the like basically like the first single proof of concept for the whole thing. And so that one I did in Boston in January with all of their studio musicians there. And
Oh.
I was heartbroken on the one hand, the way that it's all set up and the travel stipend and everything from LA to Boston. There's absolutely not enough to kind of cover the cost of a whole band traveling there. So
Right.
I did work with their musicians, but to me, it was also like such an empowering and beautiful experience of, like I was kind of saying earlier, it's like walking into a room and allowing everyone to find themselves musically in the project really. And in the past, I think a part of me as an artist was much more focused on like, this is how the drum should sound, this is how the bass should sound, this is the, and I walked in and I honestly had no plan, and I didn't want to have a plan. I said, I'm
Nice.
walking into a room full of strangers that I do not know.
Yeah.
And all they have on purpose was just a recording of me, vocal and guitar. And it was like, okay, let's just see what happens today. And to see, oh, the drummer for that project, Steven Chigaris, he was incredible. He did 3 different drum tracks on top of each other. So he did one that was like the full kit, one just brushes, and then one just mallets. And
Yeah.
getting different rhythms within that whole scope of everything.
Nice.
And anyway, to just allow artists to find themselves within the music. And there's no way that, you know, going into it, you would say, this is exactly how it's going to sound. But there was also like no need for notes. There was no need to steer anybody really, because everyone played what made sense to them.
So
Everyone
it's a
played.
much more organically blossoming
Yes.
situation. Did you also produce it, or did you give that up to someone else to just help kind of ring lead, if you will?
Yeah, I gave up the producing. So Mike Davidson, yeah, he's the owner of Plaid Dog, and so he produced that track.
Nice.
Incredible. I mean, just an absolute genius, you know. And he and I were very much locked in, and he and I would kind of check in and be like, cool, and he'd be like, yeah. And there was a lot of oof, like, oh, that's so good.
Oh,
And
nice.
we were just locked into the process together, where it was like, okay, nobody has to say much of anything. Like everyone just kind of knows what everyone needs to do. And being able to just let the music, like you said, organically breathe in that way is so rewarding.
How far in advance, Sam, did they have your recordings of you playing and singing? How far in advance?
I want to say like a week or something. It was
Nice.
like in the middle of the fires here in LA in January. So it was
Oh, so these
I
are
got
true
to-
studio musicians that could just take something, run with it,
yes.
adapt, and do their thing. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah. So it
What,
was yeah.
I'm sorry, what was your biggest takeaway from that? What'd you learn from all of that that you'll use moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, I feel like hearing you talk about the era of tape recording and the uh, beauty of it, but I'm sure also the infuriating, like just getting everything so exact in this analog, like in some ways, I'm very much a believer of like, hey, we make things better, we improve on technology, like that's amazing. I do think though that sometimes modern music, because it's so easy to edit, a lot of producers will over perfect and they'll take out the
Personality?
humanness and the personality of something.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this once a couple weeks ago of like, there's this great video where someone quantizes John Bonham on Black Dog.
Yeah.
And it's like so painful. You can't
Yeah.
listen to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's, for me, it was like to be able to say, okay, you're going into this setting and you want it to sound as polished and as modern with modern tools, right? So digital recording, as modern as possible. And also keeping in, so it was like an acoustic drum kit. It's an acoustic guitar. It was an acoustic piano. And being able to like, the vocals, it was mainly just the one layer, it's just like an Ella thing where it's just like, it's a one track, like we're not trying to do too much, but it sounds completely modern and completely fresh in this new way.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I think we're kind of coming into that beautiful crossover,
Yeah. Well, even though you went into the project knowing that you weren't going to be completely rigid about the plan, you were going to be playing with other musicians you had never played with. There was no pre-rehearsal before going into the studio, and you were giving up production. Was it immediately liberating, or did that come with seeping into the project? Was it tense at first and then it grew on you, or did you go in going, oh, okay, that elephant's off my back, I'm just going to show up and I know these pros are going to, like, what was your perspective looking back now?
It was, I think looking back, so like a week before, the whole week been evacuated from LA because of the fires, right? So
Right.
it was like got home, got on a plane like 2 days later. Like there was just a lot of stuff going on in that moment. And so it was this kind of just nice of like really just jumping into the deep end and like, I don't know and I don't need to know. Like a really genuine
nice.
just surrender.
That's not easy for a lot of
Yeah.
songwriters, composers,
Yeah.
musicians to just surrender, to that, especially if it's not like Quincy Jones, like, okay, Quincy Jones, okay, I'll just give it all up. But
Yeah.
in your situation, I think that most musicians would have a hard time just, surrendering to all that. So that says a lot. That's really cool.
Yeah. And I find too, at the core of it, and maybe it's the singer-songwriter in me, but the core of it, it's the song, right? A song is, can you sing it a cappella, right? A song is, does it exist by itself? And then you can add as many things as you want to. You can add, a guitar. You can make it just instrumental. You can add a big band. You can add an orchestra. You can make it rock. You can make it jazz, right? But if at the core there is that song, and so to me, all of a sudden, to be able to go into a space saying, I'm excited to get to meet whatever version of this is going to exist today, and if one different person had been swapped out for someone else, right, it would have, of course, been a different thing. And so I think for me, it's like to be able to have the curiosity to kind of get to meet the song, I think is very exciting.
That's great. We've got a bunch of comments from someone who is in Brazil.
Oh,
I hope I pronounce her name right. Shelis Pateas. Does that sound familiar? Do you know this person?
no.
Okay. So you'll have to look back on comments. She's commenting on Facebook.
Okay.
But that's great. So, folks, you could check out Sam's work at www.samstokesofficial, not Sam Stokes the impersonator, not Sam Stokes the imposter, but samstokesofficial.com. And when does the new EP come out, Sam?
So I'm going to Boston in June to finish recording everything, and then later this year, everything will be coming out.
Great. And this is April, what is it? April 23rd, 2025, as we are broadcasting this. So if you're watching this in the future for time context, when we mentioned January and mentioned upcoming months, you'll know what that's all about. Looking forward to that. Folks, you can check out Common Ground, her release that's already out on that website as well, Sam Stokes Official. And Sam, thanks for coming on and sharing your story as a musician, singer-songwriter, and a future awesome drummer.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan. So amazing just to step in the world of drums and everything that you know. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Hang on the line with me. And folks, thank you for joining Sam and myself here on Drum Talk TV. And stay tuned to what we have going on. Lots of interviews still coming up. A lot of first timers as well, which we're really excited about kicking off this year and even moving into May with still a lot of new first interviews. So watch for that. And we will see you all soon. Thanks, everybody.